We're less than 1 week away from the election, and it's a good thing I voted early because that means it's officially no longer my problem. I'm just kidding. If I stop covering the election, TBS will put a bullet in my head. Despite Trump last week proclaiming he's the least racist person to apparently ever get sued for racism, the president is still behind in the polls. And sure, that's great, except we've been burned before. As we learned in 2016, the only two things polls are good for are guessing and dancing, which is why Nate Silver is now working both. His predictions may let you down, but his dancing will get you up. There's nothing I want more than to safely launch Donald Trump out of the White House via catapult in January. But folks, we can't let our guard down yet. It's too easy to get distracted by crazy shit like Mitch McConnell's floating corpse hands. Don't worry, McConnell said there's no health issue. It's just how your hands look after fisting the country for 35 years. Republicans have crippled democracy and destroyed countless lives in the last 4 years, and we're only just beginning to understand the full extent of the damage, especially when it comes to the still happening family separation crisis.
The children are now in U.S. custody, and some of them have not seen their parents in more than 3 years.
Approximately 2/3 of those parents were deported to Central America without their children, leaving the families separated, possibly permanently.
We now know the government can't find the parents of 545 children.
545 children are missing parents. That is horrifying. Every child deserves to know exactly where their parents are and, in my case, exactly how much those parents don't love each other anymore. As you may know, in 2018, the White House instated the zero tolerance policy, which officially initiated family separation. But after public outcry, Trump ended the program, and a federal court ordered the administration to reunite the separated families. For the Trump administration, however, it was a task even more impossible than reuniting Stephen Miller's hair with his head. At the time, about 2,700 children had been taken from their parents, and after a months-long search by a committee, all of them were eventually offered the opportunity to reunite. Unfortunately, turns out there were far more separated families than the administration first revealed, with many coming from an even earlier program.
It's important to note that these children were not separated during the full-scale zero-tolerance border crackdown in the spring of 2018. These children were separated from their parents during pilot programs in 2017.
I didn't think it would happen, but somehow they found a pilot worse than Work It. ABC asked, will bosom buddies work in 2012?
Hey, Shakira, tone down the booty shake a little, will you?
America answered, no. Even after the zero tolerance policy ended, more than 1,000 families were still separated at the U.S. border for reasons including their guardians having traffic violations, theft offenses, and questionable allegations of gang affiliation, which seems unfair because all three of those are also qualifications to be president. You heard it, ladies and gentlemen. Samantha Bee went there. Trump is done. Sure, the Trump administration may still be finding ways to separate families, but at least they're also doing bupkis for the search for missing parents of migrant kids.
How much help are you getting from the Trump administration to reunite those families?
We are not getting help from the Trump administration. Originally in court, the judge said to the government, are you going to find these families? And the government said, no, we don't think it's our problem because they've already been deported.
Honestly, I doubt Trump would have been able to find them anyway. I don't even have faith in him finding Waldo, though I do have faith in Waldo finding COVID. Wear a goddamn mask, Waldo. Despite all the hurdles, a court-appointed steering committee managed to get information on a number of missing parents, but many are still hard to find because these asylum-seeking families have either gone into hiding or haven't returned home or simply decided to leave their children in the U.S. because it's safer than their home countries. Being unable to locate the missing parents of 545 children is bad enough, but it turns out that 362 of those same children could also not be found due to out-of-date contact information. 362. That's one child for every day of the year. I mean, like, at least my year. I don't count the 3 days after 420. Even when officials are able to contact the parents of separated children, it's not always a happy ending. Of the hundreds of parents the committee has found, very few of them have been allowed to reunite with their children in the U.S. And no matter what happens, there's no way to avoid the fact that the damage done to these children is permanent.
What these children went through has been now categorized as government-sanctioned child abuse by the American Academy of Pediatrics, as torture by Physicians for Human Rights.
There should be no such thing as government-sanctioned child abuse unless the child in question is Agent Cody Banks. But he's a huge national security risk. He operates outside of our government's jurisdiction, and he's violated every international law that the UN has. Get rid of that little shit, and get rid of this big shit. If we want to end abuses against innocent families, we need to fire the administration that is perpetrating them. And our only way to do that is to vote them out. Make a plan for how you'll vote and talk to everyone you know to make sure they're voting too. Your friends, your coworkers, even your weird neighbors who let the dogs out on repeat during sex. I mean, they deserve to be heard, but only after they put those dogs back in.